Modiga, otherwise known as breadcrumbs, is a staple food in an Italian kitchen. We use it almost every day in some way, shape, or form, whether it's vegetables, on fish, or on chicken. So today I'd like to show you how to prepare Mudiga, a seasoned Mudiga. In Sicilian, it's called Mudica gonzata, which means fixed or seasoned breadcrumbs. So we're going to start with 1.5 pounds of plain breadcrumbs. And to that, we're going to add Progresso breadcrumbs, and they're the Italian style. We're just going to use about 2 handfuls. Next, we're going to add 1 package of Good Seasons Italian dressing. It just adds a really good flavor. It has all the seasonings. You don't need to measure everyone out. The next thing we're going to do is add some fresh grated Parmesan cheese. And you kind of do it by eye. I'm going to say probably about 1.5 cups of cheese. The more cheese, the better. It'll really melt and makes it kind of crispy when it fries up. It's really yummy. When I was a child, I remember going over to my grandmother Felicia's house. My grandmother used to make this, and I remember standing in her kitchen and just watching her. And I remember my mother learning how to make it, and now it's one of my son's very, very favorite meals. And he's a very picky eater, so if he will eat this, anybody will eat this. So next we're gonna add 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. For me, you can never have too much garlic, so I'm gonna break some up. Easier if you put it on the cutting board, put your knife, don't cut yourself, and just give it a quick smash. It just breaks the skin and it makes it easier to peel. Sometimes you need to do it again. Don't be afraid. So now we have our garlic peeled, and we're gonna just finely chop, mince, as small as you can get it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Garlic smells so fresh, it's so yummy. You always wanna buy garlic that the skin is really tight. It has almost like a purplish tint to it. That's when you know that you're getting a nice, really good quality head of garlic. That's what I look for when I go to the grocery store. So all together, we have about, I would say 4 cloves of garlic. Like I said, don't be afraid, you never can have too much. We're gonna add our chopped garlic to our breadcrumbs that we've prepared. Let's mix it all in. And I'm Italian, so we do everything with our hands. So if you want to and you don't want to get your hands dirty, you can get a spoon, but there's nothing like just mixing it with your hands. Just gonna toss this, or you can smell the cheese, it smells so good. And the garlic. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that I need to add just a little bit more of the Italian style fixed breadcrumbs. A little here, add a little there. This looks good. We're gonna place this aside and we're gonna chop our fresh parsley. That's the last step. So we're gonna take a good handful, probably about 1/2 cup when it's all chopped. I like to use the fresh parsley. I just think it has a great flavor. I like the texture of it. The color I like is better than the dried. The dried sometimes is crunchy, dark. This has a really fresh flavor. I remember cooking with my grandmother, climbing up onto a chair. I was very, very young. I always had an interest in the kitchen. I'm comfortable in the kitchen, I don't know, and it started when I was very young. If you ask anybody in my family, they'll tell you I was always next to my grandmother, always interested in what she was cooking, how she was cooking it, loved tasting it. I was named after her. So I don't know, I probably have some of her genes. She was a fabulous cook. We've learned so much from her over the years, and we were lucky enough that she was one of those cooks. Although she cooked by eye, she always had a recipe. So when she passed away, that recipe box followed from house to house in our family, and everybody made copies. I know the recipes because I cook with my grandmother so much, so I really don't look at the recipes all that often, to tell you the truth. My mother, on the other hand, when she's cooking a recipe, she has to follow the recipe to a T. If my grandmother's recipe said stir it 5 times, she will stir it 5 times only. So we have a big joke in our family. My mother and I have a hard time cooking together, although we enjoy it. I cook more like my grandmother and just go by eye and by taste, and my mother is the exact cooker. My daughter is starting to cook more like me. She's a little bit more daring than my mother. And my son actually loves to help me cook, believe it or not, more than my daughter. My daughter likes to make desserts, so that's kind of fun. to have him interested in something I'm so passionate about. With these breadcrumbs, you actually can do a number of things. We use these every Sunday when we make meatballs. Another reason why it's nice to make a big batch of them and keep them in your freezer. And one less thing on Sunday morning you have to do. We do chicken with them. You can do nice steak on the grill. So many vegetables, there's so many uses for these. So we're just gonna add this to our breadcrumbs again. And we're just gonna toss it all together. Now you can see why the fresh parsley would be better than the dried. You can actually see the flakes, and when you're breading something or using these in meatballs, you see the little pieces of the green, and it's so delicious. And it looks pretty, because it has to look as good as it tastes. So here we have our fixed Modiga gonzada, which means fixed or seasoned breadcrumbs.